Live in studio, episode on compromise, coming to you straight from the Bald Fox. The Bald Fox. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Bald Fox, and we are on the Bald Fox podcast. Today, we are going to have a few guests on, and we're going to chat a little bit about relationships and compromise. We're going to go ahead and call our main guy, that guy Nick, and we're going to bring him on the line, and we're going to start to go at it.
Hello?
Hello, is this that guy Nick?
Yes, is this the Bald Fox?
This is the Bald Fox. We are live in studio and you are in our session.
Well, I am honored to be here. It is amazing to be part of this show.
We appreciate you coming on. We think that we'll have a lot of fun today. And our topic of the day, this is part of our new series on relationships. And we're going to talk about compromise.
Compromise.
The guilty word that so many people really struggle with understanding.
Honestly, it's not that hard to figure out. It really isn't.
Okay.
I have learned.
Hold on. So before you go, what we want to do is we also have a couple other guests that we want to bring on. So what I want you to do is, I believe you have a female counterpart that may have a couple things that she may want to bring to the table. Why don't you go ahead and dial her in, and I'm going to get Boston Bobby on the line to join us.
Boston Bobby. God, I haven't heard from him forever.
Let me get him on the line.
Let me bring Melissa in then.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and sneak in everybody at the same time.
Yo.
Boston Bobby, this is the Bald Fox. You are live in studio.
What's going on, brother?
All right, I just tied you into that guy Nick, and we've asked him to bring on a very special guest, Mel, who may have a little bit more to give us in perspective from a woman's side.
Ooh, okay, hey, I like it.
There she is.
All right. I just wanted to be on record. If I get beat up over this is not fair.
Well, so
that to be known right up front.
Well, I'm assuming you guys are probably in different rooms, so she can't hit you with anything that close.
Yeah, no, I'm barricaded in the garage right now.
Good. That's a smart move. I'd probably lock the door.
I have full tac gear on.
You have full tactical gear? Oh, you're expecting a war. Okay, this is going to be fun.
I just want to protect myself. You know, you never can be too careful.
Nick, do you have a helmet on? We want to make sure we protect the noggin. Do you have a helmet on?
Yeah, full tactical gear.
Okay,
I'm ready for riot.
Perfect. And the door is locked.
So for our last two guests that came on, Boston Bobby and Mel, our topic is, this is part of our relationship series. And in this series, we talk about a lot of different things, but right now we're going to focus on a topic of compromise. This happens to be an area where I believe a lot of people have lost touch with the fundamentals of what that really means. And it doesn't matter if it's in a friendship, a relationship, family, whatever it is. We have gotten disconnected on that. And I think this is very important for people to get different perspective. Now, what we're going to do is just set a quick ground rule that if everybody, we really want to be respectful and making sure we're not over talking one another, because nobody will be able to hear. So if you hear this noise, that means that everybody needs to take a beat and breathe so that we can kind of get ourselves back on track. Because I know how fun and entertaining this could be. So I want to make sure that we know what we're listening for as a trigger. Like that word, trigger.
So are you asking me to compromise?
Well, yes, I am. This is the great way to start off. We're compromising.
You're trying to ask her to compromise right out of the gate.
I mean, look, I mean, maybe we're setting boundaries. Should we go there? No. Oh, we'll stick with compromise.
We're bringing up all those trigger words.
Oh, those trigger words. Is that? Are you feeling triggered? That guy?
So I'm
Nick?
not feeling triggered. I'm just saying, like, these are very trigger words. Boundaries, compromise, tactical gear,
respect,
trigger words.
Yeah. Tactical gear is definitely a trigger word. All right.
I'm also in my garage, but I do not have any tactical gear on, so we're gonna go with it though.
Oh, so you're wet. You're ready to just have somebody come and roll you out. You know she will.
100%. I might hit my head on a dumbbell on the way out too.
All right. So let's dig in. So a lot of times first we'll start here. That guy, Nick and Mel, just for the audience listening, are an actual couple. How long have you guys been together?
Allegedly.
Allegedly a couple or allegedly together?
Yes.
Okay. 10 years. That's what I heard.
10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we got 10 years.
All right. And Boston Bobby, you've been with your significant other for how long?
4.5 years.
Okay.
And still counting.
And still counting. That's great. So you're running a slightly longer but similar path that I was on. Okay. So we're going to talk about things in relationships and kind of how it works. Obviously, as we know, in the beginning, you have two different people. When you have two different people, you come from two different walks of life, two different worlds, and somehow you guys smirked at each other or, tripped over somebody's shoe and fell in love. You started to court one another in the beginning, and it was easy in the beginning because you were still in the honeymoon phase of, the excitement. It wasn't real life yet. The relationship hadn't settled. There hadn't been any real trauma between the two of you that created a situation where you may have to compromise. And as we go through this, depending on age brackets, and I believe, on this call, we'll just keep it in the 30s and 40s range. And, as we know, we evolve. Every 7 years, we change the way we think about things, our idea of what a relationship and love is. But more importantly, as we get older, in some instances, we become very set in our ways and how we do things. On the other foot of that is we are still growing as people, and we're trying to become the better version of ourselves. However, our expectations are different. So, in this situation where let's just say we start digging in and talk about situations, I'll give each party an opportunity to throw out a topic or a scenario, and then we will, as a group, discuss what we believe is a real example of compromise in a relationship. Now, keep in mind, this can be in a intimate relationship with your significant other. It could be with family. It can be with friends. It doesn't always have to apply just to romance, because compromise comes in all forms. We all have boundaries. We all have things. And we often forget that even though in a relationship, you're supposed to make sure you value that the most, you should in all aspects of your life. So I will go ahead and say, this guy, Nick, why don't you fire away and let's play with this a little bit.
Well, I'm glad you kind of premised this a little bit, and I'm gonna let you know something right now. You talked about Boston Bobby said he'd been in his relationship 4.5 years, and I'm going to tell you, so fast forward, obviously, almost, it's about 6 years, and that's where me and Mel's relationship is, right? And so what I'm going to tell you is that at 4 years, I thought I was still able to make my own decisions, but at 10 years, I know I don't have to make those anymore.
What do you mean?
The fact it behooves me
what
not
do you
to make my own decisions anymore.
what do you mean you don't make your own decisions? I'm confused.
Look, everything's about compromise, right?
Yes.
That's what our segment's about, right? So we have to learn, like they say, pick and choose your battles.
Yes.
And if she just tells me what I have to do, there's no battle to be had. I just listen. And I sometimes even I do it. I even do it sometimes.
Are you rolling with the?
Through isn't always as good as I'd like, but I don't put up a fight like I did, at 4 years, or 2 years, like when like when you're first breaking out into a relationship, and I'm me and they're them, and we're trying to figure out how to commingle and coexist and grow together. And I will tell you that in compromise, you set your battlegrounds, and the longer you spend time with a person, I will say that you figure out what's worth dying on the hill for. You know what you understand what I mean by that?
Okay, so let me ask you a couple things.
Sure.
So what you're saying is you essentially passed over your wand and your nuts to her, and whatever.
They're in my purse.
And
She's looking at it right.
Whatever, he's getting his tactical gear. See, he's in safe zone right now because he's like, I don't want to go to war. I'm just going to give her anything she wants. She got it. But in reality, is that true? I mean, for the most part, you're saying that at a certain point, you have handed over your wand and said, I'm going to pick my battle. If this is my biggest battle, I have no problem. I have no issues. And now I'm just going to let her tell me what to do. Now, if we're being honest with ourselves, do you agree with a lot of those things? And would you do something different? Because that's not a compromise. You just told me you're just doing it. So I'm trying to get clarity.
No. So part of that was a joke.
I know.
I will say that the things you're willing to fight about and the things you're willing to fight about in your first year, probably your second year. Your first year, you're still kind of lying to each other.
True.
But, you're still putting on a front your first year.
That's it. Everybody knows this, by the way. That is the common deal. That's part of the dating and courting process, right? We go out there, we put our best foot forward. Nobody really knows who we really are yet. They haven't gone through 4 seasons and really gone through any kind of difficult situation yet. Okay, go ahead.
100%. So, with that being said, it's one of those things. You get to that first fight. That first disagreement. And, I look back at, when Mel and I, we had some disagreements. And when I look back, I can't say we, but I can say for me, when I look back at some of our disagreements early on that may or may not have led to some fighting or some yelling or definitely, maybe a slam door here and there. I'm just saying it could have happened. I didn't say exactly it went down that way. But with that being said, some of those things that we were just so staunch and willing to just die on just die on it right there. Like, I'm standing my ground. Really don't matter in the grand scheme of larger life. So, like, they're almost like, why were we fighting about that? That was so stupid. It wasn't. It's not even a matter of compromise. It's a matter of it wasn't a big deal when you look at the things you go through in life as your relationship evolved.
So let me ask you this: if a scenario came about where maybe when you were early in the stage of dating, you didn't necessarily want to have a confrontation. So you kind of sucked it up a little bit in the beginning, right? And this is not the case in all cases, because some people carry their trauma and their past relationship where they have these ways of going, I'm not going to put up with shit from the next person. And they handle it that way. But let's go with the first scenario. And then later, as you start to grow and you start to see one person being a certain way, and you start to kind of inch in there where you're like, no, I'm going to put my foot down here. And then you start to see that that person is allowing you to continue to put their foot down. And I don't want to say that that person became accustomed to the mythology of, I can get away with this. Let me see how much more I can get away with, until it evolves into a world where now you feel like you can't say anything or it's going to turn into a shit show.
So that's a great question, actually. It really is. What I will say is that, and Mel, you could chime in any time after I say this, but it's one of those things where it's like, I think I've come to the point where I can, evaluate things rather quickly and go, man, not worth fighting about. Nah, I may express some dislike toward that. But I think that, and probably my biggest problem, I'd say, problem with me, things that I do, my MO, if you will, when I get to a certain point or I have a staunch opinion on it, whether it's right or wrong, I can explode verbally, of course, and then it's just like I said what I said. Now, that happens very rarely, I would say. Mel, you could very rarely in our relationship have I ever just exploded and it's like I said what I said and like that's it. I'm not talking about it no more.
It's pretty rare. It's funny because you had brought up that you felt that if relationships are easy in the beginning, and I actually think probably the last, I don't know, babe, what do you think? 4 years at least, maybe 5, have probably been the easiest. And I think that the first 5 to 6 years were probably more difficult. I won't say like the most difficult, but more difficult, because you have beliefs in what you want or what you think, and somebody may differ with you and you go about it differently. I think at our stage of the game, there are some things that I think occasionally we die on the vine with. But usually after thinking it over, we come back to it and kind of go, okay, I know I said X, Y, Z, whatever the case may be, but if that's what you think we should do, let's roll with it. If it doesn't work out, we'll go the other direction, and it becomes more fluid.
So that becomes the compromise.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, nobody's always 100% wrong and nobody's always 100% right. So where do you
differ? But I'll compromise with you on this situation.
That she's 100% right and you're not?
But, well, hey, listen, don't go put words in my mouth. No.
Well, I mean, that's just what I assumed based upon the statement.
Well, I want to touch on one thing she said though. Was I think it might have been misconstrued when we were talking earlier, was that it's not that it's easier in the beginning. I do agree that, the longer you spend time together, the more you know which buttons you can push, which buttons you shouldn't push, what you can attack on and what you just need to kind of like let cooler heads prevail on. I definitely believe that comes much better with time. But what I mean, I think what the Bald Fox and I were saying is in the beginning is that in the beginning, we don't always voice our opinions, or we don't always get across what we want or how we want it to be. And then, you start breaking into, well, we've been together a year, we've been together 2 years. Now you start being a little bit more boisterous, or, maybe a little snap, or a little bit snappy on some things. But the difference being is, right?
Do you feel like she just took that one personal? I feel like, though, and you're right. I feel like sometimes in the beginning, and Boston Bobby, we're going to bring you in here in just a sec. So I feel like sometimes we internalize a lot of things, and then we choose to not say something because we don't want to automatically put somebody in their defensive zone or have a conflict because we know that they may overreact. And then we can become fearful. The problem is during that process, we're not properly processing it out. We're not dealing with the issue. We're not communicating with it. Therefore, there can be no compromise because it's just a disaster internal waiting to explode.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying I haven't ever been in that situation, but what I'm saying is that as time evolves and you know how to talk to your partner better, which is ever changing. I mean, it's not like, oh, well, we've reached this mark, so now we know exactly how to talk to each other. We all go through moments of frustration, and it could be our friends, it could be our significant other, it could be your job, it could be just life is kicking you in the gut right now. And that's what's causing you to implode, and you don't know how to communicate that. But I feel like as time goes on, you figure out how to communicate that with your partner, with your friends, with family. With anybody. As time goes on, you start to figure that part of it out.
Okay, so let's stop there. Boston Bobby.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show.
How are you? How's everyone doing?
Good.
Is the tactical gear still intact?
Based upon the way he's responding,
I took it off. It seems like we're going to be pretty mellow tonight.
Yeah, he can go back to putting on his thong after what I was hearing him
probably
say.
The next hour.
Yeah, she looks like she's being pretty chill. I don't think you're going to need it tonight.
Yeah, look, like I said, he's going to go sit there and just put his diaper back on. He'll be fine. So, Boston Bobby, you got to hear a little bit about what we're talking about and kind of our perspective. You happen to be a little bit younger. You're in a newer relationship of 4.5 years. Your experience obviously is a little bit different. Your perspective may be different. So we'd like to actually hear what you have to say on this topic.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on what Nick said, I'm learning that much faster than 10 years of what hills are worth dying on and which ones are not, and that comes from obviously going through it and being in those types of situations, but also seeing my dad and my mom go through it to also learn, okay, I need to pick my battles better and figure out which ones are worth dying on. And that saying, what happy wife, happy life, might be the most corniest thing in the world, but it might be the truest thing in the world. And it's just like learning to decide which ones are worth actually fighting on and which ones are actually worth saying, you know what, if this is what's going to make her good and make her happy, then let's just go with it. Not even worth putting my stamp on it.
I'm going to 100% disagree with you. I understand the happy wife, happy life. And that is a great saying to try to keep men in their box and think that, look at where we are in the world. The reality is it really should be a happy couple, a happy life. Because that makes it a one-way road. That means that as long as she's happy, then you suck it up. It doesn't mean you're happy. So that's where the compromise comes in play. I disagree wholeheartedly that that mythology of happy life, happy wife, or happy wife, happy life, I really believe it's happy couple, happy life. You compromise
Right.
with one another. You guys both equally talk and meet each other's expectations and needs. And where you both are lacking, that is the part of communicating so that you get there and become a power couple together. If you're always holding one up on a pedestal, the other one is always going to feel less or inferior or feel like they're not good enough or they can't say their piece or their word. And so that's just my little thought on that.
I'm going to give you the flip side of that coin. Not that I agree, happy life, happy wife, happy life, although I do like to live it occasionally.
Right.
I feel that compromise is an ebb and a flow because somebody is not always necessarily happy with the outcome of the conversation or what they have deferred to. You may not always be happy with the outcome, but you're like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to roll with it. If this doesn't work out, we'll go another direction.
And I agree with that.
But I have to, there are moments that I've had to let Nick this is the way he wants to do it. And I'm like, okay, I don't agree with it. You know what? Whatever. Like, we'll do it your way. That's fine. Then if it doesn't work out, let's try it mine. And if it still doesn't work out, let's come back to the drawing board and let's see if we can figure something out together. But I don't think that compromise, it doesn't mean that you both are happy with the decision.
Right.
Right.
And
you just have to.
You hit it, Mel. That's it right there. Sometimes you guys are going to get to a point where you're still not happy with the outcome of it, but at least you're saying, hey, let's try it this way. If that doesn't work, let's try it this way.
Yeah.
And I think that's anything. It's in a relationship in particular, it's, hey, I expect or I would like you to do X, Y, and Z. And the other person should be able to set the same expectations for the other person of what they want from that relationship or a situation. We're not always going to agree everything, and it's okay sometimes to say, let's put some thought in, let's table it. Let's put some thought into this, and then we'll come back to the table and see where we want to be with this.
And I will chime in on that a little bit. You're not wrong.
You're talking to
Thank you,
Mel,
honey.
right? Okay.
We
we knew who he was talking to.
No, I mean, both you were saying very, very good points. No, what I mean is you're not wrong on that level. What I struggle with, sometimes I struggle with tabling things. That's me.
You want to try to resolve it right then and there?
Mm-hmm.
I prefer to keep going until we reach a resolve, and it doesn't always work out the best.
So you're willing to go all 9 rounds?
Yeah. No, I'm willing to go the distance of that fight. But I've tried to be much better.
You've had to compromise.
Right. I've tried to compromise and be better at that aspect of life. And unfortunately, growing up growing up until about the time I turned about 30, I would say that I was a very shoot from the hip kind of person. And what I mean by that is, you say something and I have a response, and I'm going to stand on that. I'm going to stand on it, and that's it. That's the only way it's going to be.
Well,
I will die on that hill.
And Nick, just part of the issue, and I'm going to say a couple things real quick. Part of that, as you know, is even if you're wrong, you don't want to admit you're wrong. You're going to stand on that grave, and ultimately you're going to fall in because you're going to fight a battle that is going to lead you down a potentially confrontational scenario. I think as we get older and we realize that we're managing personalities, everybody deals with things differently, right? So in my own experience, I've been in situations where I'm a lot like you, Nick, where I used to shoot from the hip. It was my way, no way. I had to learn to compromise and understand that people deal with things different. And part of that was also understanding that I want resolution. I'm about solutions. I'm solution driven. Here's the problem. How do we solve it? Some people, they have a different way of processing. So they listen until they don't want to listen anymore and they shut you out and just zone you out. They want to process and deal with it. And in some ways, it's healthy if they actually come back to the table and deal with it. Otherwise, the ones that say, well, I need some time to think, and they just try to sweep it under the rug and never resolve it at all. Well, I can't deal with that very well. I want resolution. But as we grow and we start to learn how one another works, and a lot of it comes into presentation, right? When we're dealing with a conflict or an issue, how much easier is it to get ourselves down into a calm, comfortable zone where the parties feel safe and they don't feel like they're being attacked? Because it's very easy to get defensive and we don't feel safe, and we're already anticipating our answer before actually listening to what the whole problem is, because we're in fight mode. It's fight or flight. And fight or flight mode is very dangerous.
I agree with that.
I'm very much a fight or flight person, so that's probably one of the things that we've had to overcome in our relationship, because he does want to resolve right then and there, and he's had to learn that, look, I will come back to the table. I just need to be able to stop, not feel like I'm in this flight mode, and think about it, and then we can have a reasonable conversation. But when I continue to feel pressured, now I'm on the defensive, and that's never a good place for us to be. So I know that. That's why I said I knew it was a compromise that we had to make, but it was because of me.
With that deal right there, Mel, how does somebody, tell the audience how somebody with that mentality, how do we approach you then? How do we, and at that time, what makes you feel safe for us to approach you? What's the demeanor? What is the setting of that helps you? What's the proper time in you, like for you, that we're able to come back and readdress the situation so that we're not being overly aggressive and we understand how you work? Because this seems to be more of an issue than not in a lot of cases.
Sure. I mean, I like to think that I can't give you a time frame. Depends on the intensity of the conversation and obviously the gravity of it, right? So, but I need a moment to I'm always better if you give me a moment to kind of wrap my head around it than if you try and give an off the cuff. I'm very self-aware of my positives and my negatives. Do I really have any, honey? But
don't answer that, Nick.
I've never experienced
that was a layup for you, Nick. That was speed up.
Yeah, she was waiting for you to hit that one.
It's all good. No, Nick knows this. I'm very hyper aware of my strengths and my weaknesses,
which most people are not.
Right, and I try to be very honest about what they are. But I'm also not. In the past I've not been really great about verbalizing the way I feel.
Common.
I tend to let things build up, and then I have a big, boom moment, and then I have to calm myself down. And I'm aware of all those things. So it's one of those things I'm always trying to grow and get better at. And for the most part, we do pretty well with it. I mean, I'd be lying to say we never fight. That's BS. Sometimes we have light bickers. Sometimes we have conversations, and every now and then we have a kaboom moment, and then we have to come back from it with the end goal always in mind. So the one thing that I would say is that, somebody has to be very self-aware. If they're just doing it, if it's fight or flight, and I'm never coming back to fight or to discuss or to talk about it calmly. There are people that don't want that. They're going to run the other direction no matter what.
Right. And
to go after them, you're just going to back them into a corner again. What makes them feel safe? I think that's an individual conversation. I just have to be able to express the way I feel, and right or wrong, say what it is, and then let's figure out, here's my reasons for why I don't want to do it X, or here's why I do. He will come back and say, I think if we do it this way, blah, blah, blah. And I have to take it back and forth, and we have to figure it out. If I'm just completely uncomfortable with it, I may die on that vine. It's hard to say, but it's rare. I don't think the nice part about our relationship, I don't think either of us really like puts our foot down on the other one. We have a lot of respect for who each other are, and we recognize that. I think so. Nick's got some amazing strengths that I absolutely do not have. And I would say the same is true of me, which is what makes it so complementary. But, I'd be lying to be like, our life is perfect. No, we're not perfect. But I honestly couldn't tell you what. I think it's an individual thing. It depends on the situation, depends on what their background is. It depends on what they know about themselves and are willing to admit when ego is not involved.
Ego
that's a big one. You got to let the walls
down. And that's the biggest issue, right? Is if people are not willing to let the walls down, be a little bit vulnerable, have those, because that's where that's where the best us is, and we're afraid. So, Bobby, you and your significant other have gone through some fun stuff, and you guys go back and forth and compromise and different things. What, feed in on this.
Yeah, so definitely, and kind of back to what I was saying earlier, is that the happy wife, happy life thing, giving in, is just going through those situations that you're referring to is what's made me learn to decide what mountains are worth dying on. In the beginning of my relationship, and for probably my whole life, I've always been the type that has a plan, wants it to go a certain way, needs it to go a certain way, but it goes to that compromise you're talking about, is realizing that there's certain things that I don't need to die on, or don't exactly need to go my way. So when I was saying earlier, it's like I sometimes concede on the things, on the stuff that doesn't matter too much. I try not to sweat the small stuff. If it's a bigger issue or a bigger decision to make that I'm very passionate about, then of course I'm going to go all out into pleading my case. But when it comes to the small stuff of do you want to go to dinner here, or do you want to, our future kids go to that school? I'm going to, kind of let her have some of these W's, because it's not as important to me as it is to her on certain things. And the biggest thing is, like you said, it is compromise, and there's compromising in different ways in every different situation.
So what's interesting is that, and just, I think, as a cautionary comment, that a lot of little things sometimes start to masquerade into something big. Because if we fail to recognize the importance of the little ones, sometimes they start to ball up, and then people start to create patterns where they think, well, you don't care about this, you don't care about that. So, it's a cautionary, one that I would pay attention to, just so that you are making sure there are some discussions and healthiness that goes with that. It's interesting, and the married couple can chime in, but I think we were joking earlier about a lot of times some of the biggest things that couples fight about is, what are we going to eat tonight? It's almost like you need to put a bowl together and have a whole bunch of little things that you guys put in there, and you just draw from the bowl. That way it takes the conflict out of it. Guess what? I pulled. We're eating chicken. And
the bowl chose for us.
That's it. But we chose what we wanted to put in the bowl. We just didn't want to choose what we were eating that day. So, and it works one of two ways. Great. I'm picking tonight, or you're picking out of the bowl tonight. Well, I don't like that one. Well, great. We only got one more pick left, because I'm going to pick, and whatever it is, it's what it is. We're going to pick one. So it's how do you solve those problems, and it's real world problems. What are we eating tonight? So, but these are the type of fights that we have that, unfortunately, we don't realize these little things add up.
Well, I can tell you after 10 years, we haven't got it figured out at all.
So, there you go.
we put the names in the proverbial bowl. I mean, often he'll be in another room and just kind of send me a text and be like, "Hey, are you hungry?" "Yes, I am." "What do you want?" Right? And it's like, okay, so now we try and throw it out there. Okay, with chicken, Chinese, no burgers, had that yesterday, or tacos, no, we're going tomorrow night for tacos, whatever the case may be. And so we start by process of elimination. And I think sometimes the most of the time we can figure it out. And worst case scenario, and these are those die on the vine moments. Mine is always Spaghetti Factory. I absolutely love Spaghetti Factory. And he'll be like, "What do you want?"
The old one or the new one?
Factory. The old Spaghetti Factory. Misistra and brown butter. Always.
Got it.
And he'll be like, yeah, their bread is really good. And he's like, but their dressing is better. But, he'll be like, "Is it like, are you just like dead set on it?" And I'll be like, "Yeah." And he'll be like, "Well, sometimes we'll DoorDash it." And it's like, "Oh, I'll just DoorDash me and you DoorDash you. I'm not cooking tonight." But cooking, we usually roll through that pretty easily if we're cooking at home.
Do you guys,
just if we're going out.
Do you guys cook together, or is one person more the cook than the other?
Depends on what it is.
Okay.
When you say it,
Tactical gear.
Nick,
Well,
you there?
apparently he doesn't want to. He doesn't want
I
to shoot.
think we
on the-
lost him.
No?
Sorry, guys.
He's not.
Wait, were you catching your breath? Were you catching your
DoorDash?
DoorDash?
Engage on the food topic.
No, I had you on mute.
Ah,
Oh, so you didn't hear it?
no, he heard
No,
it.
I had it on.
No, we just couldn't hear him.
Oh.
Didn't hear it. Sorry. I'm back.
Welcome back.
Okay, so the subject is food, agreeing on food. I said we put our names in the proverbial bowl via text often. If we're eating out, we disagree. But it seems like when we're at home, we pretty much agree on what's going to be eaten. And he asked about responsibilities, who cooks what, and I said it just depends on what's being made.
Yeah, if we're talking about eating at home, here's the thing. I'm not that picky when it comes to eating. So Melissa tends to get these cravings. So she's like, this sounds good, or that sounds good. And depending on what that is, it kind of depends on who's going to cook it, or what we're going to do, or how we're going to do that at home. If we're going out, well, that's a whole nother story.
I think if at home you don't really have an opinion, you'll just eat whatever. Hey, I threw this out. I figure we'll have tacos or whatever, or steak tips or whatever. And you're like, okay, that's fine. What are you going to make with it? Salad. And one of us will go and cook the tips. And we tend to share responsibilities most of the time, unless I'm just going for broke in the kitchen or vice versa.
Right.
Well, see,
but when it comes,
go ahead.
When it comes to going out to eat,
She likes the old Spaghetti Factory. Yeah, we know.
Yeah. Now let me placate this scenario for you. I'm really hungry. What are you hungry for? I don't care. Okay, how about this? No, that doesn't sound good. Okay. This? No, not. No, that's okay. Well, what is it? I'm really open. I would say early on in our relationship, we had one of these scenarios happen, and I just walked out the door and said, "Where are you going?" She said, "You don't care." So what are you going to eat? It doesn't matter. I don't care.
Smart Alex.
Right. So what's funny about this, Nick, is that yesterday I was with my daughter, and we were going to go do some shopping she needed to get a couple gifts. And I go, okay, well, where do you want to eat afterwards? My 19-year-old daughter goes, I don't know, Dad. I'm the girl. You're the guy. You choose. I was so taken back. I'm like, what the hell just happened? Now, granted, I'm like, my God, did she just tell me that I'm the guy and I have to choose? This whole time I haven't got this figured out. Shit. At least, what we would do is we would compromise, because on the days that we have the kids, she typically cooked dinner. On Tuesday, I cooked dinner. And of course, a few times it got a little late, so I end up buying dinner. And that doesn't count, by the way. They want you to cook it. Buying dinner is not part of the deal, even if you buy it.
It does in our household.
Well, great. Then I'm going to get in your household. Hey, Bobby, who cooks in your household?
Definitely not me. It's all Caitlin. She's the master chef.
Oh, my God. And let me tell you guys, I'm going to have her write a little cookbook, and she could just scratch it KK's Best, because she made this chili. I like spicy food, and hence the reason why, anyways, but this chili was so on fire. It was so good. This girl can cook.
Yeah, she gets down it when it comes to the chili, shepherd's pie, potato soup. The list goes on. So I'm pretty blessed in that area. And the other thing too, we don't really fight too much about the food, because a lot of our meals are already planned out for the week. We have meal prep for lunch when we're both she's at school, I'm at work, and then the dinners are also kind of prepped out for Monday night is potato soup, and Tuesday night is tacos. So it's already pretty much a game plan. The only time we run into that is when it's going out to eat, and it's where do you want to eat? I want to go to Canyon Cowboy, and she wants to go to Spaghetti Factory.
Right. Well, here's what I learned is that like I said, Tuesdays I wasn't.
Hey, Boston Bobby, guy, I'm cutting you off. Does she really like Spaghetti Factory?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So the girl, KK and Mel can go by themselves. Great.
Exactly. And what I was going to ask you earlier, Nick, too, it sounds like you guys don't have too many problems when it comes to the food, except when it's wabi wasabi on the table.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
you just opened up a can of worms.
Throwing it out there.
Gear's going back on, boys.
Oh, boy, here it goes. She even messaged me directly on that one. I got a middle finger.
I'm looking over Guy's shoulder. I'm like, oh, she's big mad.
She flipped me off. I'm like, what did I do? He invited me. I just paid. So.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
What?
Wait a minute.
What?
I said, I gave you a lot of suggestions. I said, if I got to drive all the way down there, I'm gonna eat wabi sabi.
And I said there was a Mongolian grill not far from there.
I want Mongolian.
Well, no, that was the point. You didn't want it, so I compromised and went where you wanted to go, dear friend.
And it got him and you in trouble.
Nah,
Hang on.
I would rather have
dragged me
Stefan
down
every day of the week.
Oh, I would too, to be honest. But you dragged me down that rabbit hole, and I got in trouble for you, just so you know.
Well, I will say that it's a good thing that we all are friends, and we can learn to talk about things and move past them.
That is true. Now, going backwards, we're going to sweep this one under the rug so that we can move on. So on Tuesdays, it was my responsibility to cook. That was my compromise, right? She works hard. It's my job to make sure that I give her one night where she has no stress and no worries. I cook. Some nights it ends up with massage. Sometimes it ends up with more. So that was always our compromise. And what it did for me is it took me out of my comfort zone, because I was never really a big cooker. So I now was having to learn how to do some of these things. And I got to tell you, quite often it was actually very therapeutic. I actually enjoyed it because I wanted to put on a nice presentation and do different things and try new stuff. I mean, I cooked an amazing salmon for her. And salmon that she thought was great. At least she lied to my face if she didn't. But
that's at least what she said out loud.
Right, exactly. But it made me want to do that more. Now, as time progresses, I suggested that, we start doing like a cooking class or something like that and do those things together, which I think is it's healthy compromise. Because we get set in our ways of just things that we cook that are normal dishes for us. and we're trying to open our horizons in our mind. I think Mel and I spoke. She was asking me about, well, have you ever been to this restaurant or that restaurant? Because everybody likes to say I'm so bougie, but but I haven't been to any of the restaurants that she suggested.
True.
So,
Well, guy, in your bouginess,
here we
I
go.
will say you are a creature of habit.
True.
See,
True.
You don't we talk about things, but yet you stick to the cheeseburgers, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise.
What's wrong with that? I just
It ain't
call
broke,
I
don't
just call
fix it.
I
They
just
have
call it
other
being
things
simple.
on the menu of that one particular restaurant we go to.
Oh my
I
god!
don't you think most people tend to be a creature of habit though when they go to
Yes.
when you go to certain restaurants, you know you're gonna get X
Yes.
or maybe a choice of A, B, and C, but it's gonna be. Most people don't tend to step outside their comfort zones unless it just really sounds off the rails, and then you're like, okay, I'll give that a shot.
Or you're
So
such
I'm
a
going to extend
foodie.
a challenge then. I'm going to extend a challenge right now.
Oh boy, here we
Can
go.
Eat your way through a menu.
Oh,
We're going to go. No, we're all going to go out to dinner.
okay. So far, it doesn't sound
We're
bad.
going to get. No, it's going to be the Bald Fox. It's going to be this guy Nick. It's going to be Mel. It's going to be Boston Bobby. It's going to be KK. We're going to take Too Legit with us.
Are we going to Water City?
And we have no. We're going to go to a restaurant, and we have to order something we
That was
wouldn't
Too
normally
Legit.
order.
Oh, great!
Wow.
Oh.
Stepping out of our comfort zones. I
Wow,
like it.
you're gonna make us make this a foodie challenge, are you?
foodie.
Let me
Totally.
explain this. So I've done this. I do this very infrequently. So what I'm here to tell you is this: I went to a restaurant over the holidays, right?
Which holiday?
Really nice place. Over the holidays. It was for Christmas,
Okay, got it.
and we went to this place called the Del Rey, and food is amazing
Bougie.
there. It's like a 5-star restaurant in the middle of the ghetto.
Oh, sounds bougie.
Sounds very
is bougie.
inviting.
It's very bougie.
For
But what I will tell you is I could have just went to my normal, ribeye steak with potato and some sort of soup and, coffee at the end. No, sir. I chose Chilean sea bass. And I will
Wow.
tell you, it's one of the best meals I've ever eaten in my entire life.
wow.
By the
Wow.
way, guys, Del Rey's was on that list I sent you.
Got it. Yes.
We also had escargot.
Oh. See,
But I've eaten that before. That doesn't bug me.
you guys are frightening me right now. Okay, we got to close this up. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give everybody about 15 seconds to give your best audience advice on compromise. That guy, Nick, fire away.
I would say when it comes down to compromise, you guys just need to, we as people just need to figure out, you need to listen, you need to think, and you need to make a response. Not one that's going to piss somebody off, and not one that's going to go against something you believe in. So just make an educated, smart response. Don't shoot from the hip.
Got it. Mel,
Spent 30
you're
years
up.
trying to figure that one out.
I would tell you the same thing I tell everybody. You have 2 ears, 1 mouth. So listen twice as hard as you speak. Drop your ego. Be open. Be honest. And if you need a minute, verbalize it, but then be willing to come back to the table. And maybe if you're not good at it, set a time so that you both can sit down and discuss it further.
Okay, Boston Bobby, you're up.
Austin Bobby here for you. I'm going to make this one real quick, easy, and simple. Subscribe and like to the Bald Fox podcast. Every single week, he'll give you some great relationship advice, including compromising.
Ooh, nice.
I like
Subscribe
it.
and like.
All right, gentlemen, my last piece is I very much thank you guys for coming on. I believe that compromise is a key component to relationships. We will talk more about it on the show, and I thank you guys all for joining. The Bald Fox is out.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
Eat chicken tortilla soup now.
Tortilla soup. Hey, that stuff's pretty good.
She's making it right now.
Wow.
I'll send you a picture of it. It's
Great.
She gets down.
Yeah, great. Sounds great. Just send me a picture. That doesn't help me taste it.
Do I need to drop
Hey,
it now?
hey, hey, hey. You may have to go on a drive.